Hello, and welcome to Canada Live Radio, your favorite place for news updates, weather, and everything on what's happening around Canada. The major story that is the talk of the country today is that Nellie Lentina Mooney McClung passed away today, September 1st, 1951, in the environment of her home at the age of 77. McClung was dearly loved by many, and today we have a good friend of hers in, Claudia Smith, to help us reflect on her life. Mrs. Smith, could you tell us a little bit about Nellie?
Sure. There is so much that I could say about her. She was full of life and very witty. Dear Nellie cared about those around her. She was very sweet, and I loved spending long hours with her discussing the good and bad things about our country. Boy, am I going to miss our time spent together. And although we have always been good friends, our beliefs didn't always match up. She promoted the law being passed in Alberta called the Sexual Sterilization Act, which stated that those who were mentally challenged should have to be sterilized. I did not agree with her on this front, but she knew not to bring the subject up when around me, because I would always give her a good talking to. Nellie once said, "Never retreat, never explain, never apologize. Get the thing done and let them howl." I have to say this sums her up to a T. The memories that I have of Nellie will live on forever because of her unique personality.
Most of us know that Nellie accomplished some respectable things over the course of her life. Could you tell us a little bit about her time here and some of her accomplishments?
Yes, I'd love to. Now, let's see. I guess I'll start at the beginning and see what I can remember. Nellie was born on October 20th, 1873, in Ontario, close to Chatsworth. Her family moved to rural Manitoba about 3 years later, where she lived on a homestead, and she began attending a school at the age of 10. You could see that she was very smart right from the beginning, because by the time she was just 16 years old, she was teaching 8 grades in a one-room schoolhouse. Meanwhile, I was still working hard just to finish school. She got married to Robert Wesley McClung, her love, while teaching in Manitou in 1892, and gave up teaching at that point. In 1911, she moved with her family to Winnipeg, where she became a suffragist. Nellie once wrote, "The real spirit of suffrage movement is sympathy and interest in other women, and the desire to make the world a more home-like place." In trying to keep with this, McClung and the other suffragists living in Winnipeg at the time confronted Mr. Sir Rodmond Roblin, the Premier of Manitoba, about women being allowed to vote and such issues as child labor, but he didn't take them seriously. Nellie and the others didn't give up though, and in 1914 they held a mock parliament, furthering their point of why women should be allowed to vote. Because of good old Nellie's work efforts, Manitoba became the first province to let women vote in 1916. Sadly, after she had already left the province, she and her family had moved to Alberta, where she was later elected to the Alberta legislature on July 18, 1921. She was the third woman to serve in the Canadian provincial government. She joined with 4 other women in 1928 to work on the person's case. All of them wanted women to be recognized as a person, and they are sometimes called the Famous Five, but their first petition as a group failed. This happened when the Supreme Court of Canada decided that women were not considered to be a person, the complete opposite thing of what they were working towards. But they didn't give up, and finally, after all their hard work, on October 18, 1929, the law changed and women were declared to be a person, and they could, for the first time, run to be members of Senate in Canada. Nellie accomplished so many things over the course of her life, including writing 16 books, and she was definitely quite the character.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Is there anything else you would like to tell us about Nellie before you go?
Well, now that you mention it, I guess there is one more thing that I should say on behalf of Nellie. This is significant to all you out there listening, because if she had not fought for what she believed in, you as women would not be allowed to vote. Women could not run for Senate, and they would still be completely ruled over by men. I would predict that if she had not stood up for these things, women would still not be voting, and wouldn't be for many years to come. She was definitely full of character, and as I said before, she once said, "Never retreat, never explain, never apologize. Get the thing done and let them howl."
Thank you, Ms. Claudia Smith, for coming in today and sharing with us about Nellie's life on the day she saw her deathbed.
No problem. It was my pleasure, really.
Well, that's all for our news report today. See you next time on Canada Live Radio.